Good afternoon, everybody. I wish you a warm welcome to our conference Whales Don't Have Passports. I'm Melanie Kimmel. I'm a volunteer for the Festival Colombia Diversidad. This festival is organized every year by the Foundation Envolver Colombia. This year, we are also with Conservation International Colombia. In this virtual edition, we have organized more than 18 events, and thanks for the support of more than 40 sponsors and partners. A particular thank you for the French Development Agency and Eco-Business Funds, the program Eco Gourmets and Foundation Convida, and the association Phoenix, who made this festival a reality. Colombia is the second country with the biggest biodiversity, just after Brazil, but is one of the countries with less invests for protecting these riches. Our goal is to promote the importance of biodiversity here in Colombia, and through this kind of encounter that we organize today between two countries and two scientists specialists of whales. That's why I'm really glad to present you this event and these two amazing speakers who are both passionate about whales and biodiversity in general. We will learn more about how whales are migrating, how they communicate, and everything. You can leave comments that our speaker will answer at the end of their presentation. Don't forget that you can change the language. We have an interpret during the conference, then you can switch both languages. I hope that you will enjoy it as well. I enjoy meet them and organize these events. Without more transition, I will let you with Richard Sears, who will speak from St. Lawrence, Canada, as our first speaker. Then welcome, and I'll let the speaker. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Where is I can't seem to find oh, there it is. Okay. So anyway, sorry about that. The reason why I'm here, I think, is because I've been working a long time on whales, but in a far different place than where you are in Colombia. I work in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. That logo represents my organization. So I've been working for about 45 years or so on whales, 42 in the Canadian waters here in Quebec. And I put this this map of the Northern Hemisphere, or mostly of the Northern Hemisphere, up because I think I want people to think in terms of these whales using whole ocean basins. In other words, we're lucky most of the time that whales come to where people like myself and Esteban work on them, and they come close to shore because we're pretty much tied to shore or not too far from shore, whereas these animals can cover great distances. And here we have the St. Lawrence. I don't have a place for Minga, but if you see on the map, you see Havre Saint-Pierre. We're not far from that. So we're working between that big island called Anticosti and the north shore of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. That's our main study area. But we also work up into the estuary where it says Fleuve Saint-Laurent, and we work down where it says, if you can read it, Gaspé. So we cover pretty much the northwestern part of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. And we're studying minke whales, which I just put in one example here. And of course, we study humpback whales. Interestingly enough, just prior to this meeting here, we have a humpback whale that has swum all the way up to Montreal here, which is a unique, it's never happened before, a young animal. But for the most part, these animals are found coming into the St. Lawrence in summer to feed. So this is something that's different from the whales that Esteban studies. Those are humpbacks, of course, but they're there during the breeding period when they reproduce, give birth, and so on off of the Pacific coast of Colombia, whereas our animals are coming up from the Caribbean. And we also, one of the main species we work on is there's finback whales, but blue whales. We were We've been working on blue whales pretty much longer than anybody else. And here you see a picture of in clear waters, which we don't have in the St. Lawrence. I don't want to make you think that the water's like the Caribbean and the St. Lawrence, but when you do get to the Azores or places like that, you can have a chance of seeing a blue whale underwater, which is pretty remarkable. But we have catalogs of these different individuals of each species. And here you can see a blue whale, they'll feed in the summer right along the edge of the ice. So they're also called an ice whale, but they'll also migrate down to warmer areas. And one of the places where you find them in the Atlantic is off the coast of Northwest Africa, as well as down as far as the states of North Carolina, South Carolina, on the eastern seaboard of the United States. But on the Pacific side, I was lucky enough to study blue whales in the Sea of Cortez, Mexico. And so you can see that these animals have a broad range, as do humpbacks, of areas that they frequent depending on the season. I'd just like to point out quickly some of the problems that whales have in the place like the St. Lawrence, but it's not just relegated to the St. Lawrence. You find these problems throughout the world with shipping and how animals can get hit by vessels, which when they survive, leaves marks of this type. So there's been a pretty severe trauma here caused by a vessel collision. And then of course you have fishing gear, and I believe that Esteban will talk to you about that a bit, but fishing gear problems or encounters for whales are also a major problem in the Atlantic, particularly on this side with all the fishing that goes on. Some of the things that we do is to, if you look in the bottom portion of this image, you'll see sort of a rod sticking out, and you'll see two little prongs or two little tips, and that is a satellite tag. And we can, on occasion, come up next to a blue whale very gently like this, and we try to shoot that tag into an area around the dorsal fin. Now, sometimes we get lucky with that kind of information, and we were lucky enough to have B244, which is a female we've known for a long time, was tagged in the St. Lawrence estuary. You can see the blue dots there where there was a red star. But we were able to get 6 months of track from this animal going down the eastern seaboard and then coming back up in the spring to try to enter the St. Lawrence. But you'll notice also that it went way out into the Atlantic, way beyond the shelf waters. And we learned that these animals will make use of what in English we call seamounts, or underwater mountains, where there's probably much more productivity than we know about. So they're not just found close to coastal areas or in shelf waters, they can also get out. And this is true for, I think, most of the species. And I've just included a few brief pictures. These are humpbacks from an area in the Caribbean known as Silver Bank, where humpbacks congregate much as they do where Esteban works during the winter months for us, which for us it's from January, February, March, and April. And so you can see the water's quite clear. You can even see the bottom. And animals that have been tagged there, you can see from Silver Bank over here on the left side of the chart. You can see the tracks of some of these whales. Some of them go, well, there's not just Silver Bank, but some of them head up towards Norway or Iceland, and then others are going to the eastern Canadian waters or the Gulf of Maine in the US. And of course, you can see some of them have gone by those New England seamounts, very much as what we found with the blue whales. And I just put in a picture just to give you a look at what blue whales look like from the air. These are two blue whales on their sides feeding at the surface. If you look carefully, you can see the mouths are wide open. So they're feeding on euphausids or krill. And then I'll finish up if we have time with if I can get it to work. Doesn't seem to want to work. Oh, here we go. Of some humpbacks feeding in the St. Lawrence. So what you see here, if you can hear me, is see the humpbacks using bubble nets. So they. Okay, well, there we go. So it's sort of a contrast between what humpback whales do in the northern, well, in their feeding grounds, such as where we are up here in the St. Lawrence at this time of year, and contrasted to what Esteban sees off the coast of Pacific coast of Colombia there, where it's more of a breeding ground, so not so much feeding going on. And that's it. Thank you. Hope that gave you something. Do I do stop share right now or what?
Yeah, yeah, now you can stop sharing your screen. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
I don't hear anybody else except.
Yeah, Melanie, Melanie, your audio is off.
Pues les dejo ahora con Esteban Duque, que es líder de investigación por Madre Agua y que también va a explicar un poquito sobre las ballenas aquí en Colombia. Les dejo con él. Muchas gracias a todos y muchas gracias a Richard por su speak. Gracias.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you confirm if you're seeing me in the screen? Yes, perfect. Okay.
Am I supposed to shut off my video now or what?
Yes, if you can, that'd be great. Okay, thank you very much, Richard, for this. And that video was amazing, very beautiful. It's an honor for me to be here. Very, very honored to be invited to this talk with this amazing person, Richard. So it's thank you to the festival and everyone and all of you that are watching. Remember that whenever you want to change the language, you can go to the bottom bar of your screen and change the language in the rightmost option. Todos los que quieran escuchar en español pueden ir a la barra de abajo del fondo de la pantalla y al lado derecho van a poder cambiar el idioma. So, okay, so now to start, thank you very much for watching. And it's very, very nice to be here. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. So, okay. Okay, now I think you're watching my screen. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the whales and how they migrate and how they travel all across the globe, and how whales don't even have passports because there are no limits for them in the oceans to travel. And as you saw with Richard, they are great travelers. And as we are going to see here, now we are going to be focusing a little bit more on Colombia, in the Colombian coast. And my name is Esteban Duque. I'm a biologist from the University of Antioquia. And now I'm a researcher at Madre Agua Ecoturismo here in Colombia. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the work we're doing right now in the north coast of the Chocó, in the Pacific coast of Chocó. So I hope you all enjoy it, and giving thanks to the festival, to Colombia Diversidad, to the Foundation Envolver and Conservation International for this invitation. Sorry, give me a sec. Okay, so I will start saying like to clarify something. I have my slides in Spanish so everyone can understand them as you read, but I'm going to be speaking in English and translating everything I write to English. So this phrase is a phrase I like a lot and that inspires me a lot in the work we do with the whales here in Colombia. And I think it also applies to the work with the whales all across the globe, and it's that a dream that you dream alone is only a dream. A dream that we dream together is a reality. And well, all the work we do here in Madre Agua, well, first to clarify, it's a big team. It's not only me. I'm presenting it, but it's a lot of people involved in this whom I give a lot of thanks to for their work. And also about the whales, as we have seen, they are great travelers. They travel all across the globe. So working in a single spot and studying them in a single spot doesn't give us a very good picture of what they are actually doing and what's actually happening with them. So in this dream of learning about the whales and knowing more about them, we need to share a lot and we need to work together in order to make great things happen and to like make this puzzle that can give us a bigger picture of what whales are and what they are doing. So what we do here in Colombia, our name is Madre Agua. We work in the North Pacific coast of Colombia, and we basically use tourism as a strategy. Like we use tourism as a platform to actually gather research data and to get information, to get to know more about the humpback whales, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you about in this talk. And tourism is a very powerful tool that we can use to see the whales because, as you know, well, going to the ocean is very expensive, and getting these resources, especially in a country like ours, is very hard. So tourism gives us a very good opportunity to get on boats and to gather opportunistic research data that can give us a lot of information about the whales, about their biology, about everything that is happening with them, or most of the things that are happening with them. So it's very interesting to use these kind of platforms to actually learn about the whales and also to do more things that I'm not going to talk about today. So this is like the boats we work at. This is my partner Santiago. He's in the front of the boat talking to the tourists. So it's very nice having like the opportunity to do this work. We usually work with 2 biologists on board. Every time we go whale watching, one biologist is guiding and telling people all the information like we can share about the whales, and another scientist, another biologist is on board only taking research data. So that way we can actually focus on teaching people and giving people a very good learning experience about the whales, and at the same time we can have good research data, good research information that is, well, actually a little bit limited because we are doing tourism. We are not doing exactly research data, but we also have research trips beside the tourism trips that we are doing here. So also a very important part, this is Mar, another of my partners, and another very important part of our work is the science education and also environmental education, that when people go, they want to learn about the whales, but at the same time they are getting a lot of information on the environment, on science and nature, and how to actually take actions on their own lives to conserve what they are actually seeing and enjoying in the ocean. And also having biologists on board allow us to have like a better, like more controlled tourism, so it's way more respectful with the whales than other kinds of activities. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is the map where we work. We work in the Pacific coast of Colombia, as you see in the left image. Well, it's in the north coast, and this is where we work. Is called the Gulf of Cupica. Is northern to the National Park Utria, and also to the north of the Gulf of Tribuga, which has been like a very important spot. Like we've talked a lot about this place all across this festival, because it's a very important place that now is in the spotlight because of the port the government, the Colombian government, wants to build in this place. So this place where we work is a place of influence from the Gulf of Tribuga. So it's a very important place. Also, it's very important to study the whales, not only the whales, but all the animals and the biology and the ecosystem all around the place where they are going to build this port, because this is going to give us a lot of information on and how the sport is going to influence all these places, okay, if the port happens. All right, so it's very important to have a lot of like the most information we can about all the places in the North Pacific coast of Colombia. And as you see in the right image, well, this is as zooming to the Gulf of Cupica. This pin you see is in Vallasolano. That's where our operation starts. But we do basically service all across the Gulf of Cupica, where we are gathering data, and we've been working for 3 years now, since the year 2017. So as you have probably heard before, this place, the northern coast of Chocó, is one of the most biodiverse places in the whole world. It's a very spectacular place. To me, it's magical, and it has stolen my heart. That's why precisely I'm working there. And it's a place where the jungle and the ocean just happen to cross and to be together, which is very particular. And this gives this place a high land biodiversity, and also a high biodiversity in the ocean. And we happen to have humpback whales in this place during the summer, actually. So this is between the months of July and October. We get the visit of the humpback whales, and this is considered an important place for the humpback whales, a wintering ground, a breeding ground for the humpback whales. So they come here as opposed to what Richard was explaining to us. They go where he works. Humpback whales actually go, and blue whales go to feed, right? But in this place, they are not feeding. They are reproducing and giving birth to their babies. And while they are here, they are not eating anything. So that's something important to know. We yet don't have evidence in this population that the humpback whales can feed in the breeding grounds. So that is very important and has a lot of implication on these places, because then the whales are not getting an income in energy, and this makes them more vulnerable to all the affectations that may happen in the place. So to explain you about this, so what you're seeing is a map of the whales, right? So we have a North Pacific population, so it's around here, if you can see my mouse, right? So in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere, we have several populations. And the green whales you're seeing are the whales that come here to Colombia. The breeding grounds are not only in Colombia, they are all across from the north of Peru to Costa Rica. So it's Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Panama, and Costa Rica, the countries that receive this population of whales. So all across the Pacific coast of Colombia, we have humpback whales coming to reproduce and to give birth to their babies. So basically, to explain you about whale migration and something very interesting that may gives us clues about why they the whales from the northern hemisphere, the ones that Richard works with, don't come here to Colombia and they don't cross, is because they always feed in the summer. So you're seeing the green whales, they are in the Antarctic Peninsula and the south of Chile. That's where they eat when it is summer, right? And in that same moment in the northern hemisphere, it is winter. So the whales from the northern population are breeding, they are reproducing. So what you see here is Hawaii, Japan, Mexico, and Central America. Those are the places where they come, where they go to breed in the northern hemisphere population. But when the season changes, then it is summer in the north and winter in the south, and the whales from the northern hemisphere go to feed, while the whales from the southern hemisphere come here to breed, right? That's why usually they don't encounter, but as we are going to see, and as the name of this conference goes, they don't have passport, they don't have limits, so basically they can do whatever they want to do. They just make their own decisions, as Richard was just saying a moment ago. So this is very interesting. This migration is the longest migration in this population, is the longest migration a humpback whale population does, is sometimes more than 8,000 kilometers up to their breeding grounds. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and what kind of research we do that helps us actually understand how the whales migrate. So what you're seeing here is one of our boats. We didn't approach this whale. This is a baby whale. It approached our boat. As you see, the boat is not moving. There's not a bow in the sides of the boat. This is Sarah here, and she has a very cute face because she's very excited that the whale approached the boat. As you can see, this is a very nice work to do. We are very excited all the time there with the whales. And also to tell you, we are working now. Sarah doesn't work precisely in Madre Agua. She was working in a hotel in Vallasolano where they actually do whale watching. So what we are doing now with the Botanical Garden of the Pacific, they hire a biologist, which they have on board to guide. And what we do is we train these biologists to actually take research data, and we use this research data to learn more about the whales. So this way, we can give them a capable person to do research, to take research data, and also they have on board someone that can talk to the tourists and tell the tourists about the whales, and also do more responsible tourism. This is a way in which we are working to expand our ability to sample the place and also to have a better tourism interaction with the whales. So photo ID. Oh, so what Sarah is doing here, she has her camera and she's taking pictures of the whale, right? There she was taking a picture of the dorsal fin of this baby whale, but with and to use these pictures as a research methodology we call photo ID or photo identification. So basically, humpback whales have markings that we can actually use to recognize each individual, right? So what you're seeing here are the flukes of the whales, the tails of the whales. The underside of the tail is unique for every whale. So we can use these markings and the shape of the tail and also the edge of the tails to recognize each individual and to trace the movements of those individuals as far as we can sample them. Okay, as far as we can take pictures. This is non-invasive. We only have to take pictures and that's it. Okay, the whale doesn't even have to know we were there taking pictures, so it's very good for the whales, this kind of research. So what you're seeing here are 4 different whales, and as you can see, they were seen in different days. We have whales that were seen, all of these we saw them in Vallasolano. So in the top left of the screen, you have a whale that we saw in August 9 of last year, and then seen again the 6th of September of the same year. So almost a month in which we could spot the same whale. And this happened to all the whales we're seeing. So with this, we are getting a glimpse to know that the whales are actually using this place and staying for some days or maybe weeks. Maybe they are using a wider range than what we sampled. That's why we don't have more than 2 samples of the same whale. But then this gives us the information that this place is actually important for these whales to come and breed, to come and reproduce, and they use the place for a while. It's not a place where the whales just pass by. They arrive to the place and they stay in the place, and they develop their activities and their mating behavior in there. So, so far, we've got 523 individuals photo identified. We haven't yet finished to organize and analyze the pictures from 2019. So I hope at the end we're going to have almost 700 individuals photo identified, which is very good for 3 years having being working. And so far we have 12 matches. So a match is basically a whale that we saw and then we see it again. When we see again a whale we saw before, that's a match. So we have 12 matches, local matches, and 37 global matches. What does this mean, like global matches? We not only work with our data, we also share our data with researchers in South America, and also we work a lot with this internet platform where people upload their pictures of the flukes of the whales, and they do the comparison of these flukes, and then we can have a global comparison of the humpback whale pictures. So here I'm showing you the picture of the same whale sampled in 4 different places. The first time it was seen, it was in Ecuador. So it was seen in September 2007. Then it was seen again in Panama in 2017. In 2018, we could see this whale in Vallasolano, and at the end, in the Antarctic Peninsula in this year, in January of this year, they spotted the same whale in the Antarctic Peninsula. So this way, we can actually, by sharing this data, we can actually get more information on how the whales are migrating. Unfortunately, we don't have yet the resources to do the kind of research Richard was showing you about that was tagging the whales and putting GPS on the whale to trace the movements. But as this method is way cheaper, then we can actually use this one and get the information on how the whales are traveling and migrating. And what we have found with this is that we have a lot of Antarctic matches. So there is a high rate of matches between Colombia and Antarctic Peninsula. That is something we expected because it is supposed that the Antarctic Peninsula has the highest concentration of feeding whales in this population, right? And we have also seen a high connectivity with Panama. So some of the whales that we actually see here in Vallasolano are seen in the same year or in different years using the waters of Panama. So all the Gulf of Panama and the northern coast of the northern Pacific coast of Colombia is a place where that some whales actually use frequently to come and breed. Whereas we have a less matches with Ecuador and Peru that are more southern locations for the whales to come and breed. So this gives us information on how the whales are actually using the space in this area of the world. So also another method we use to learn about the whales and their migration, this what you see here, it says sounds and migration, songs that tell stories. We actually like a lot this method, particularly this is the research area that I like the most, which is acoustics, listening to the whales. And the fact is, how does listening to them help us to understand their migration? That's what I'm going to explain to you. But first, I want you to check this out. I hope you can all hear this. So this we're listening is a humpback whale song, and what we're seeing is a graphic representation of the sounds. So what you see in the y-axis is the frequency, and in the x-axis you can see the time. So this is basically a way in which we study their songs, and as you can see, these songs are very stereotyped. So they have actually a structure. And I'm going to explain a little bit about this because I want you to understand how we use this structure to actually learn about the migration of the whales and how whales move from one place to another. It's a different way of studying, and it gives us different answers about the migration than what we can get with telemetry, or satellite tracking, and what we can get with photo ID. So to tell you a little bit about the structure of the humpback whale song, I have this animation. So we're going to represent each individual sound that you saw before in the past slide with a different figure, right? So this is one sound. To each sound the humpback whale makes, we call a unit, right? Then they reproduce different units. So as you can see here, those are different units reproduced one after the other. To this group of units, we call it a phrase, okay? So whenever they do a phrase, after that phrase, they have a silence, and they repeat this phrase again, then a silence, and they repeat again, silence, again, silence, again. And to all these repetitions of the same few sounds, we call it a theme, okay? So the fact is that after they have sung all this theme, they change to another theme. Okay, so here we have another theme, a different theme with different units that starts repeating again. Then another theme, and a humpback whale song can be from 3 themes all the way to 12 themes. Okay, so it can vary a lot, and to all these themes we call a song. Okay, so a song, as you can see, something that is complex. It has a composition, it has a structure that is actually predictable if you have heard the song before. But they don't sing a single song, they sing like whenever they finish all this cycle, they start all over, and then all over, and then they can be singing for a very long time. The longest song that has ever been heard was 22 hours. A humpback whale singing for 22 hours non-stop, the same song, repeating the same song all over again. And to all this we call a song session. So you can see it is complex, it is a thing we can study in detail. So using this, and also knowing this information I'm going to tell you, we can understand and study how they move. So something important to know is that first, only the males sing. Okay, it's only the males that sing. The thing is that, well, as far as we know, only the males sing. Also, these males learn their songs. They are not born knowing their songs, as some birds and frogs, for example, do. They learn their songs by listening to each other. All the males within a population sing the same version of the song. So the song of all the males have the same structure. Okay? also each population has a distinctive song in a single time, okay? So if we can record now the whales that are in Colombia and the whales in Australia, they are going to be singing supposedly different things, okay? And also something very interesting is that they are cultural, they are considered to be cultural, and that they evolve, okay? So what this means is that the songs are not static, they are not the same in all the life of a whale, they change. So small pieces of the song are changed, and whenever a single whale changes the song, the other whales are going to listen to this and adapt this change. So all the population, actually, the song evolves at the same time in the whole population. So as you can see, these changes obviously depend on a whale listening to another whale, and for that they need to be at least 20 kilometers apart, because that's like the maximum range in which we can listen to humpback whale songs. And we don't know exactly if they can hear in a longer range, but they have to be close in geographical terms. So using this information, we can actually trace how the whales are moving. And with this, we have done a little bit of work. This is the first I'm going to show you. Well, and we've been working with acoustics a lot. We have projects not only with humpback whales, also with dolphins, and now we're working also with sperm whales there in Colombia. We have several research projects. We have several undergrad theses going on, also master theses, and we have also postdoctoral fellows working with us in like working together with several universities, like nationally and internationally. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about these projects we're doing. So the first one is my undergrad thesis. The name of this thesis was Following the Song Hit, Using the Evolution of Humpback Whale Song Structure to Infer Regional Movements in the Southeast Pacific. So basically what we did was to compare the songs between Colombia and Peru, and to see how the structure had differences, if the structure had differences in both places. Okay, so using these differences, and in time we could trace how, like, where a novelty in the song was heard for the first time and how it was transferred to the other side. Okay, so what we could see is that there is a pattern in which at the beginning of the season the whales from the novelties were transferred southwards to northwards. Okay, so they were transferred from south to north, and then as the season passed, the novelties were adapted, like that were originated in the south didn't go to the north, but the ones that originated in the north started going south. So this can give us some information about how whales are using this space, and also showing us that it is kind of obvious that the whales are passing first through Peru, but it's important that this gives us information that some whales are passing through Peru coastally and not like continentally, because they are getting in contact with the coastal whales of Peru. So another thing we have discovered in the research we've been doing, this hasn't yet been published. We are in this process of publishing this in the collaboration with other colleagues in South America. So in 2018, we were recording the humpback whale songs at the beginning of the season, and we had a song that was very similar to the 2017 song. But then in July, we started hearing a new song. It was almost completely different, and it was only one whale that we heard. But the next week we started listening, we could hear more whales singing this new song, and after 3 weeks, all the whales that we were seeing, that we were listening to, were singing the new song. This is what we call a song revolution. So a song revolution happens whenever a whale from another population comes to this population, and as the song is completely different, we don't know why this happened yet. Like there's a lot of research being done on this. So all the whales from the receptive population change their song to the new song that of the whale or the few whales that are arriving. So in that same year, we actually realized, like in the collaboration with some colleagues, that this song may have came from the Southwest Pacific and South Central Pacific, which means Australia, Tonga, and all these islands that are in this place. And a few days later, in Happy Whale, we found that there was a match being found that same year with a whale that was seen in 2010 in Tonga and then seen that year in Costa Rica. So this is like we have evidence that these whales migrated all the way from Tonga, like a migration from Tonga to this population, and that these may have influenced their songs. The songs were the first clue we had to actually get a glimpse on how this migration happened. But then also we could verify this with photo ID. So this is very interesting, and we are still researching this. So you can see this is all this whale, they call them trans-Pacific because it crossed all the Pacific Ocean. This doesn't mean the whale went all the way from Tonga to Costa Rica. No, maybe the most probably this whale went to Antarctica to feed and then went to the Antarctic Peninsula and after that migrated north. That is what most probably happened, not that the whale just crossed straight to Costa Rica like we are seeing here. But this is very impressive, a whale traveling a whole ocean basin. So another work we've been doing, this is in collaboration with the the Universidad Federal Rio Grande do Norte. This is in Brazil, this university, and we have a fellow that she's called Divna, and she's working a lot in comparing the whales that migrate all the way to Brazil and the whales that migrate to this population. This is basically a comparison of songs between two different ocean basins, okay? So what's interesting to see here, I know it's very complex, but if you can see, these lines show the connectivity between different places. So you have in blue Brazil, you have in orange Colombia, you have in purple Ecuador, in green Peru, and we also have samples from Nicaragua. So what Givna discovered is that Brazil and Colombia actually share some parts of their songs. So what this tells us is that these whales are probably getting in contact and sharing some information. So this is very interesting. This may happen in different ways. One way may be that they, to clarify this, Brazil whales and Colombian whales have different feeding grounds. They feed in different places. Brazilian whales, most of them don't go all the way down to Antarctica. They go to some islands close to Argentina. So what we can see here is that maybe several things may have happened. Maybe they crossed from one population to the other, a whale from Colombia to Brazil, or from Brazil to, a whale from the West Atlantic population, which are the ones that go to Brazil, and a whale from this population may be crossed and shared some song information. Okay, it may have happened in the feeding grounds, or maybe a whale could cross from one population to the other. What we actually can conclude about this is that they are sharing information, and as I told you before, to share this information, they need to be in acoustic contact. They need to be geographically close to each other. Because they also sing in the feeding grounds, they could also share some of this information there. So this is very interesting. And well, to tell you, as we have seen, whales are migratory species and very important species, and because of this, whales are very vulnerable to many things. And one of these things that they are vulnerable to, because they are great travelers, is as Richard showed you with the blue whales, ship strike. So what we are seeing here is a whale that was injured with a ship engine or a boat engine we were talking before, and Richard told me this may have been a big boat, right? Not a small boat as we use here in Colombia to go whale watching. So what happens is that when a boat gets close to the whale, the engine and the blades of the engine can hurt the whale, and that's what you see here. This pattern of injury is made by the propel of a boat, okay, the blades of a boat engine. So this is a whale that survived and actually has a very good scarring. It recovered very well, but then this whale survived, but many others may have and have not survived. Also, tourism, like unresponsible tourism, has like cause dangers to the whales, and it may cause ship strike that may kill the whales. And also what we have seen here, this is very sad, we saw this last year, a humpback whale mother with its baby. The mother had a fishing net entangled in her head, and she was like presenting stressful behaviors, and also she looked very tired. It was difficult for her to breathe. Probably if this mother didn't die, probably the baby did, because it was in bad shape. Maybe it couldn't feed because of this net. And this is also one of the dangers the whales face because of this. So we are finishing now this presentation. The whales are like subjected to many anthropogenic dangers in all this path they are crossing, in all these migrations, and that is why it is very important to protect them. And also, as they are great travelers, they are important animals in the focus of conservation, because whenever we protect whales, if we want to protect a whale population, we basically have to protect a very wide geographic area, as you saw. So when protecting these coastal areas, we are not only protecting whales, we are protecting many species that inhabit these places. That is why humpback whales are very important in these terms. So to end, I want to give thanks first to all the institutions, first to the festival, and all the institutions that make possible the research we do, all the colleagues we've been working with, for you for watching this, and also to all the people that has come to see whales with us, because they are the ones that make possible all the research we are doing. Okay. I think now Melanie can take over. Melanie, are you here? Okay, so I think now...
Can I just make a comment about
Of
something?
course.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And actually, I didn't have time because of my inability with high tech stuff. But to me, it's a real pleasure to have this exchange, because I don't know much about Colombia, and I knew something about whales in the Southern Hemisphere, but it's been really a revelation to see this area. And I think Esteban is lucky as anything to be working in such a diverse place, because I look at it and I've seen quite a few places, and that one is very attractive to me. If I was younger, I would love to go down there and do something. But also, I think it shows you how, as he was pointing out, valuable to protect areas like that, because you have land diversity, you have water diversity, plus you also have people that are, tied to their land there and their water. And the other thing that I found, I just wanted to add about the acoustics, if I may, it was that one of the things we notice in the feeding grounds is that the humpbacks start singing at the end of September. You hear little bits of song, and then by every day almost, it grows and grows till it's a full song. And it's usually the same song as how the humpback song ended the year before in on their breeding grounds. And then on their way down, it starts to change. And anyway, just want to add that little bit in. So you could see how the Brazilian and the Colombian whales might have exchanged information.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So thank you very much. And Richard and I have been talking a lot, like in the previous meeting to this, and it has been very nice to hear him. He's a person I really admire because of his work. He's the dad of blue whales in science, basically. So that is great, and I have learned a lot of him. And it's also great to hear him talking about this place and reinforcing this thing we are fighting for and we are protecting, and is to protect this important area, not only for whales, for all the biodiversity. We have a paradise, we have a pristine area that needs to be protected, and we have enough arguments to protect this place. So now here we are doing like our work also to give a small piece to this puzzle to help protect this area.
Are there any questions?
I think Melanie is going to take over.
Hello. It's like, okay. Then I have some question, yes. First of all, I would like to ask you if like the song of one whale can allow you to recognize it, like an individual. It's like if one whale have like one song particular, or how does it work?
Okay, so in terms of these songs, what we know is that all the males in a single population, as I told you before, sing the same version of the song. So it's not like they do have individual differences. They do sing a little bit different, and in one individual to the other, but those differences like are not stable. It's not like we can say, okay, if we find this difference, we can tell this individual apart. It doesn't work like photo ID. Like we can identify individuals. So as they are very plastic, they change their songs a lot. They can basically do with their voices whatever they want. So recognizing individual whales using the songs is basically something we cannot do so far. So that is important to know that when we are studying, we are not studying individuals as we are doing with the photo ID. We are studying displays that are have like stereotypic structures across a population.
Yeah, but I just like to add, I suspect that part of the problem are the limitations of humans, and that we do not quite yet have the capacity, both technologically, well, mostly technologically, to break down enough of the vocalizations of any of these whales to be able to tell them apart. But I'm certain that they can tell each other apart by this. I mean, it would make sense.
I agree with that. Yes, because as we have voice tones, we can actually recognize each other's only with the tone of our voices. Most probably whales can also, but we, as Richard says, just don't have the technology to study this and to get to know to that deepness of knowledge in these animals.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Then I have another question. I would like to know if the tourism is like influencing the whales and the way they are moving and everything.
Would you like to answer this first, Richard?
Okay, I think it's like anything with humans. Again, it depends on how we go about things. And I've been involved with whale watching from New England to here and in Japan even, and so I've seen a lot of different ways. And in the end, where there are problems that arise is where everybody's racing to fill the boats with people and to make as much money as they can. It is also clearly understood that when you have good interpretation, or scientists, as in the case of Esteban, working with the people doing the whale watching, that you have much better results for both the people viewing the animals as also for the animals, because people learn to respect the animals. So to answer your question, or the questions on this, yes, whale watching can be a problem, and there are places where, you know, we tend to go overboard, human beings. Wherever we do something, we tend to go too far. So you have to look at nature, not just whales, but in a manner that respects the habitat, the species itself, as much as one can. And there are many ways to watch. And usually if you are a little bit more hands off, if you understand what I mean, in other words, not crowding the animal, you tend to have much better experiences than when you're always rushing. And so I think it's up to government regulations. Unfortunately, I don't always like government regulations, but I mean, I think that it's important to have understanding, at least between the people who do whale watching, about how to go about it. And I think that's very, very important.
Yes, and to add to this, I agree with Richard. Like tourism, I feel like sometimes when we talk about conservation, we sometimes pretend to have an environment as if humans weren't there. And that is something I don't quite agree with, because I feel we humans are part of nature and we are always going to be part of the system. And tourism is one way in which we make part of this, right? So tourism is an interaction, and as it is an interaction, it is always going to have influence on the whales. They know you are there, they are hearing the boat engine. So basically by this, there's always going to be an influence. But then the important thing that I think we need to have into account is that we have to decide, we have the option to decide how this interaction is going to happen and what it is going to cause in the animals. So what I feel is like tourism is important because it moves the economy, in particularly in Chocó. It gives income to many people that has no other option. So to me, it is important to keep doing it in a respectful way, because then we are actually deciding how this interaction is going to happen, and that interaction is going to be positive both for the whales and for the people if we can do respectful whale watching.
And I'll add that whale watching has proven, when it's properly done, to be terrific, and I think you pointed this out, terrific platforms from which to collect data on marine mammals, where there is not always funding available to do that kind of work. But this does not mean that bad behavior should be justified by collecting data.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for this answer. Then I have another question for you both. I would like to know how many kilometers, or if Franklin, Madrid, who are asking this, how many kilometers are moving the whales? How many kilometers, more or less, like for year, for I don't know. It's like it's the,
for migration, or I mean, I
yes,
don't
for
understand.
migration. For 1 year,
well,
during the
think
migration, how
pointed,
many kilometers are?
well, it depends on which ocean, but I think Esteban pointed that out, and so I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so I think the question is maybe not very specific. That this, so as it's not very specific, this may be answered in in a lot of different ways. But talking about migration, well, as far as we know, the whales in the Southeast Pacific population, so the population I was talking about, are the ones that migrate the most. There was like recently a publication I found, actually a colleague from Nicaragua did, that she found a whale that was seen in the Antarctic Peninsula and then seen in Nicaragua. So this was in a straight line, almost 9,000 kilometers. So whales can actually migrate a lot. So their migrations are impressive. They are amazing and they are great travelers.
Well, I mean, if you take the example of gray whales, for instance, not to switch from humpbacks, but they go from the Baja Peninsula in Mexico all the way up into the Arctic. And humpback whales from the Caribbean will go, as I kind of showed, all the way up past Newfoundland. They'll go up into Greenland now, and they're actually getting further and further up along Baffin. So they're getting up into the Arctic, and then they go to Iceland, and they go as far as Spitsbergen. So these animals are all capable of very long migrations. And as was seen, they can even cross, ocean basins. Well, they may not cross ocean basins. I think, but the way you put it is probably what happened. But there have been examples of animals switching breeding sites or feeding sites, and that takes a certain amount. I mean, birds are known to do that, but whales are as well. So yeah, these animals can go on very long migrations, but they're made to just glide along, and they probably know a lot about currents, and at least older animals, and about tidal effects. So they're able to take advantage of different flows in the oceans, and I imagine that helps them a lot in their movements.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Another question from Claudia. Have you listened about the lonely whale? Is like a real information or something that is not true? Like, if exists whales that are only alone in their migratory, I don't know if it's,
I don't know. I haven't been on a migration with them, so I can't really answer that. But I suppose an animal could be on its own, if that's the question, if I'm understanding it right.
I think, Richard, what they are asking is about the famous 21 herd whale, the what they call the lonely whale. Have you heard about this whale?
Yeah, vaguely. I can't remember too much about it.
People ask me a lot about this whale when I talk about songs, because there is, like, what they say is that there is a whale that sings in a different frequency than other whales. That is what you can read in the articles, like they give in newspapers and stuff and magazines. But then the fact with this whale is that there is a whale that had, I believe it was with blue whales, that it was many years ago, a whale that had a song very particularly. It was registered several times. And that then it was more than that. It was more like a boom. And what I've read about this is that they, like, the person that was researching this whale like had the theory that it was a hybrid, that maybe was singing, and that as it was hybrid, the song had a different frequency from the species, the blue whales or fin whales, because that's what they say, that they may have between these two species.
So in other words, it wasn't having affinity with other animals. Is that
Exactly.
what it's getting at? I suppose that's possible, although I find it hard to believe, because we see a lot of hybrids between those finbacks and blue whales, a good amount. And we also see in the field blue whales and finbacks together quite a bit. So I think they're not that far apart genetically, but it's always possible that there's an anomaly. I mean, that's nature produces all kinds of, think about this humpback that swam to Montreal, just this week. I mean, what's it thinking? So anyway.
Yes, and I think in this topic, it's more like, I don't know, like something they use to make popularity, using fancy words like this whale is lonely, it can reproduce.
Yeah.
But there's more more into it in the background, that I think is maybe the situation. It's probably not as romantic as they picture it in all these articles.
Well, we probably really don't know either way. So
yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much for this answer. Then I have a question about, like, the social of your work. It's like how you involve the comunidades, como las poblaciones, las personas, las.
In English?
Sí, como,
The
como las
communities.
personas que viven acerca de sus puntos de estudios, cómo les involucran dentro de su trabajo.
Okay, to translate to Richard,
Oh,
they
no, I got it. I got it. I
oh,
got
you
it.
got it. Oh, very good. Your Spanish is
Thank you.
very
Sí.
good, Richard.
Well, I may answer completely something different, but anyway.
Okay, I may start so Richard maybe gets the clue if he, if he didn't.
No, I think I understood it. Yeah.
Okay, so in Chocó particularly where we are working, we have three lines of work. One is tourism, the other one is research, and the other one, which I didn't talk about today because we didn't have a lot of time, but I'm glad you're asking this, is the community work. Why is that? Because in the Pacific coast of Colombia, we have one of the most vulnerable regions of our country. There's the highest rate of poverty. There is also a lot of corruption. There is also a long history of violence in the place. And working with the community for us is the most important thing. We cannot work or start doing this without involving the community. So this is very important to point out because this is where tourism becomes an important tool not only for research, but also to empower these communities with their resources, with their natural resources, and with what they have there. So what we do working with these communities is the next. We, as you saw, the boats we use are small. They are not our own boats. They are boats owned by the community, like by people from the community. We hire their boats and we hire the captains that are also local people, and we train them to do the whale watching and to actually drive properly and help us get the research data properly. And in this process, we are also teaching not only our captains but all the people that want to come to our talks. We are also sharing this information with them to teach them how to interact with the whales and giving them information so they can give that information to the tourists and interpret better the behaviors of the whales, so they can actually tell the people what the whales are doing, not inventing things as many times happens, like they see a big group of whales and they say, ah, this is a family. Okay, and so we tell them this is not a family, this is a mating group, males fighting for a female. Okay, so this makes the work in the place more dynamic, and our personal interest is to make this spot a high quality whale watching place, which means we have plans and we are working now with the alcaldía, with the government in Vallasolano, to start doing talks and teaching people, local people, how to do this. And we plan in the future to start teaching local biologists how to actually do guidance in the boats, so the local people can actually hire biologists and make their services and their whale watching services to have a better quality and also to be more respectful with the whales. Also, we do a lot of work with the community. I could do another talk about this, so but I leave it to this point.
Well, I had a slightly different experience in a couple places. When I first went with some members of my team down to Baja California to the Sea of Cortez to work on blue whales, the locals thought we were completely crazy. They said, "You guys really going out to work on blue whales or these big whales? Aren't they going to kill you, or are they going to tip over your boat?" And after a few days, they thought, "Okay, well, just a bunch of local gringos coming down here. We can let them die, I guess, you know." But since we were also renting their boats, and after a while, it became sort of a joke, and they would help us put the boats in the water, and they would sort of say, "Oh, you're still alive at the end of the day," and stuff like that. But then things changed, and they started realizing that they could make some money from, because the sport fishing went down for some reason. A lot of Americans used to come down and go fishing, and so we taught some of them how the same way to approach whales. And at first they were kind of nervous about it, but then within a few years, there was, I remember some of the guys we rented boats from were waiting for us at 2 PM. They didn't understand that we'd stay out till sunset, and they thought the boat had sunk or something. And so eventually that changed, and we did we gave talks in the community, and the people, and we taught some of them how to do it, and then eventually it became a bigger and bigger occupation for that village. Up here in Quebec, they sort of looked at us like we were coming into their area, and they thought it was kind of weird at first, these people coming to this little village of about 400 people. And they were more into fishing. But eventually, the whales, they really saw what could happen by people coming there. And all of a sudden, they saw things about their village on the television, and they were talking about whales, and it completely galvanized or changed the way they looked at it. And so people approached us and asked us to give talks, and they don't do whale watching per se, the people in the village, but they go out to the islands and they talk about whales. So those are two ways that things can change. And we didn't feel comfortable in Quebec to come in and try to impose anything on them. We just let them come to us. And then when they did, we said, yeah, okay, sure, we'll be glad to help out any way we can.
Yeah, to add something to this answer that you reminded me, Richard, is that like using science with tourism has a very powerful result on the effect or the way people actually look at nature. What we have discovered by working there, like people in this place are very used to whales. For them, it's like landscape. They see them all the time when they are fishing. For them, it's just like another whale. Whale, you're in my way. And even people that do whale watching don't know a lot about them. They just see them mostly as a resource. But when we started working with the people there and telling them about the whales, sharing all our research results with them and telling them, look, each whale is different, we can observe them, we can know a little bit more about their behavior, the reaction about from the locals to the whales changed abruptly. Before it was like, oh, another whale, but now they are really excited to go out. They are excited to go and to see more whales and to take people to see the whales. And whenever a whale breaches, a whale does something amazing, they scream, they cry of joy with us. And that is something that it is very beautiful with us, because it's not only that, they are starting to love what they have in their place, and that love is taking them to protect them. We don't have to do anything whenever someone is doing something improper. The locals, as they have learned how to do it, they approach their neighbors and they say, hey, you are doing something that is disrupting the whale. This is not good for the whale. You're scaring the whale. We cannot see it if you're doing this. So this has a very powerful impact on how people see them. And just another example, last year we had our first sightings of sperm whales in this area. And these, like when we found the sperm whales, when we first found them, the boat driver was very scared. He told me, I'm going out. This is very dangerous. And I told him like, hey, wait a second. Why are you saying that? And they call them the fieras, which means like the beasts, right? So they say, no. He told me, these animals are very dangerous. And I said like, why do you say that? People told me they approach the boats. And I told them, yes, but what do they do when they approach the boats? And he told me like, I don't know, nothing. And I said like, yeah, so why are they dangerous? So we stayed there and we started telling people, hey, there are sperm whales here. And they always said the same. No, they are dangerous. But now they are changing their image towards these animals. And the locals are saying like, no, we approached them and they were very quiet. They didn't do anything. They are very nice to see. So it starts changing the perception of the people towards an animal, and that makes conservation much easier. Tourism, whenever they feel they are rewarded by protecting an animal, protecting them is much easier. So that's why also working with tourism in this way is very important.
Well, there's one other example, if I have a minute, is that when beyond where we are in Mingan, you get up even further north to a place called Labrador. In other words, where Quebec meets Labrador and Newfoundland. And up there are small villages. They're mostly English speaking inside of Quebec, which is French speaking. And those people are definitely hardcore fishermen. So when I first met them, the only good whale to them was a dead one. And because these guys put in these $30,000 cod traps, which are very elaborate nets that they anchor to the bottom, and if a humpback gets into their net, they just see it as a whale destroying their livelihood. So I remember the first times when I was there, they thought that I was Greenpeace. Well, then they learned that I wasn't. But I would be surrounded by fishermen on the dock asking me about this and that, and it's kind of aggressive. But over time, they saw what we did and how we were out there working with the animals, and they came to be watching over us. And then I made a point of going to fisheries meetings with them to see what their point of view was, you know. And then it changed quite a bit. We even were able to stay in their homes, and you know, they became collaborators. But so there's different, you know, there was no tourism involved there. It was just a few researchers coming to work on whales, but these guys had an anger towards the whales because of this could destroy their livelihood. But anyway.
Wow, thank you very much for both of you. We are just like, we have 4 minutes left, and then I will enjoy these 4 minutes left to ask you something that I saw many in these comments. Like a lot of people wants to know if you are welcoming volunteers to help you in your researches, both of you.
Well, okay, I'll keep it. We take on interns, and we have had some people from South America before. There aren't many that have asked, but it's quite competitive for internships. We sometimes have as many as 200 people asking to join us for maybe 8 to 10 positions, if that many. So yes, if you're a biologist and you're interested in being an intern with us, that you can always, you know, put your hat in the box, you know, with everybody else and try and see if you are able to make it. And I would suspect that Esteban is probably an easier, well, I don't know if it's easier, but I'm just saying it's probably a more realistic, you know, option. Person to talk to about that.
Yeah, so
and I'm not saying I'm not for it. On the contrary, I like having people from all over the place at our station.
But also like volunteers? No.
Well, we don't really have. We have interns who are volunteers. I mean, they volunteer their time, and in exchange they learn, and then we hope that they might do graduate work. And you know, they might come with us, and they might say, "Okay, I've been bitten by enough mosquitoes in Quebec and been cold enough. Now I'm going to work with Esteban, you know, and stay in Colombia." But anyway, so yeah, that's how we do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, I may say I want to be one of your volunteers, Richard. So I hope my application can get it in that 200 people list.
Yeah, I don't think that's right now we have the COVID problem, which is another issue.
Impossible. Yeah, so precisely with that, well, now we are not receiving any interns or volunteers. What we usually do is we receive interns also that are developing their research projects, and to some of them we help them develop their projects. Like we have had some people from University of Los Andes in Bogota, from University of Antioquia, and also people that come to volunteer. That in these people, not everyone is a biologist, but usually we receive people that have something to offer, right? Like something that can help our work. Like for example, maybe people that know about media and developing videos and stuff like this that can help us with this, and then we kind of involve them with the whales, so they can have the experience with the whales. And with the volunteers, we also have a lot of people asking us to go volunteer, and usually not many of us come, because this is it's a complex thing, right? I volunteer, we need to offer some things so they can stay with us, and also it's a lot of work to receive them. But we usually have these programs to volunteer, and we are planning to open more volunteer places so people can come and learn about the whales. Especially, we're very interested in getting biologists or biology students that want to learn about the whales and how the research is done, and if they want to develop their thesis there. That is also something we're very interested in. So you can just contact us and talk to us, not for this year, unfortunately, but for next year. Maybe we are going to be doing these programs.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everything. Like, we are
It's
out of
already
time
over. I
now.
could go on for another half hour here. This is fun.
You know, Richard and I can be talking about whales for hours and hours.
Oh, I know that. I know that. And then I
But anyway,
suggest like
I just want to say thank you so much for bringing me virtually to Colombia, because I don't know when I would have a chance, and everything you did to organize this, and it gave me a chance to meet you and Esteban, and it's been a great pleasure. And I would love to someday be able to go down there and not just see the whales, but I also just want to see the birds.
Yes.
if I remember well, Esteban suggests you to come to Medellin.
Yeah.
Entonces.
Well, we'll see.
Yes, you have a place to arrive, Richard. Whenever you want here, you're welcome. And also, I want to say thanks to, well, first, this is my last intervention in the festival. So thank you, Melanie, for organizing all this and for your hard work. I know it has been like a titanic activity to reorganize everything to the virtual platform, and also to all the organizers, to Axel, to Andres that is translating right here and may have had some problem translating our jokes.
Yeah, sorry, Andreas. Nice work, whatever you did.
Also to Daisy and all the people involved in this festival, the sponsors, Conservation International, and Volvert, to everyone. Like, really, I'm very pleased, and to Richard, it has been like really a really high pleasure to meet you, and an honor to be sharing this space with you. Like, really, I feel very honored to have been
Well,
invited.
I don't know about honor, but igualmente for me. And Axel, thanks for all of you for being patient with me pushing the wrong buttons and stuff. But anyway.
Yes, thank you very much. It was an honor to work with you. Thank you. Thank you for all the audience, for all the people who watched this video in this conference. You can find this video like disponible en la página web. Muchas gracias.